Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It is Friday night, and you are listening to Paranormal Review Radio with your hosts, Anthony Agati in New York.
And me, Lucy Liebfried from Chicago. We are so happy that you're here with us tonight. Our chat room is up and running, so feel free to further discuss the topic or to ask a question. You can also call in with your questions to 661-244-9831. Make sure you press the number 1 to get into the queue. Now, if you lose your sound on your player, just refresh your page or log back in. You can also send us an email at paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com. And don't forget to check us out on our Facebook show page.
You know, almost 46 years ago, two young men named Roger Patterson and Bob Giblin returned from a remote California forest with film footage of what they believed to be Bigfoot. It is the most widely scrutinized and yet possibly compelling evidence of the elusive hairy creature we have all heard about and sought after. Sightings of this creature have been reported all over the world and in many different countries, but yet Bigfoot has never been captured and displayed on the news for all the world to see and believe. What makes up a Bigfoot community? Are there things we need to watch out for that Bigfoot enthusiasts claim? Are we closer to finding the truth about Bigfoot, or have we missed the mark? Tonight, we may get some answers, excuse me, and insight into what other guests, what our guest calls the American Bigfoot. Jeff Hilling, a Bigfoot historian, researcher, and author, has written a new book titled American Bigfoot, in which Jeff cleanly outlines what I like to call the state of the Bigfoot Union. The book gets to the heart of some of the misconceptions, false theories, the real history of Bigfoot, and the truth about Bigfoot and how the research has been conducted and purported up until present day. Jeff lays everything out there for you to decide and formulate your own opinions, and is not trying to brainwash neither side of the Bigfoot believers. Even if you're a diehard Bigfoot fan or just someone who has heard about this creature in passing, all readers will enjoy this book and our guest tonight. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Jeff Hilling to the show. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me back again. It's a pleasure to be here in the Paranormal Review. Great show.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back to the show, Jeff. You know, we do love having you on. And for those who may not be familiar with you or your books, can you give us a brief outline of your history and research?
Yeah, I've been studying Bigfoot and cryptozoology for quite a number of years now, 7 or 8 years full-time, and been writing books and out in the field doing everything. I'm working a little bit behind the scene in some Bigfoot movies coming out, and got some creative projects in the works, so I'm a very busy man nowadays. So.
Well, when we last had you on the show, we talked about the infamous Patterson-Gremlin Bigfoot film from 1967. Now, have you learned anything new since we spoke last February about the film or the research in the last year?
Well, nothing too new. I mean, I'm always learning little bits and pieces, but the data has gotten a little old and stale. Now, in my spare time when I'm not doing field work lately and other projects, you know, I still do delve into the Patterson Film Mystery, so it's still alive. And my book is just as timely as ever. People are still interested in the Patterson film, and I wrote, you know, a year and a half back, the Great Bigfoot Film Mystery, that really brought open to life the Patterson film again.
It really was a great book, and we know we got a lot of feedback from the last show that people loved hearing about you, and then when they got your book and read it, we got some comments back. But you have a new book called American Bigfoot. What was the reason behind writing this book?
Well, I actually was a response from doing my research on the Patterson film and the Great Bigfoot Film Mystery. I had a lot of people surprisingly order this thing and make it an independent bestseller of sorts. And I've had even some famous people order my book. And it started taking off from there, and it was like, wow, there's really an interest here. And this was back a few years, really, before the whole Bigfoot thing really hit again. And
right.
So people were asking me, they say, are you going to do any more research? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm doing research all the time, but, well, can you write another book? And I'm like, well, okay, I'll tell you what the state of affairs of Bigfoot and some Bigfoot history. Basically, I tried to cover things that people are talking about in the Bigfoot world, and also things that nobody's ever really written about before. I strive to always bring new, different perspectives, theories, information to the table. That's what my books are all about. Because who needs another book about depth of tracks and angles and all that stuff's been done about 5-10 different times by several different people, and done very well, I might add. So there's no need to recreate the wheel and just put my cover on it, my name on it. Mm-hmm. So what I've done is take existing information on the Bigfoot, sifted through it, history, current events, everything, and compiled it into this great book called American Bigfoot.
I bought your book last week on Smashwords, and I have to tell you, I really liked it. I'm not a big Bigfoot researcher, but I like to understand it and read about a lot of the paranormal phenomenon and stuff that's sort of not yet proven, and sort of try and formulate my own opinions on. What I had learned though previous was the Bigfoot name, the name Bigfoot, was only coined in the mid 20th century, if I'm correct, and we actually may have a new coined phrase by you. Can you explain what Sasquatchploitation means?
Yes. I did coin that phrase, registered trademark Jeff Hilling. Sasquatchploitation. It brings me back to the days of the old blaxploitation movies back in the 70s, which I'm a huge fan of those, and the biker exploitation flicks. I've got a very many strange interests in life, I'll put it that way. So, but that's kind of what I'm seeing here with the revival of Bigfoot. And I mean that tongue-in-cheek. I love the revival of Bigfoot that's going on today. I think it's great. I think it's even bigger than it was in the 70s. But however, there are effects to it, and I discuss those effects in my book, American Bigfoot. I discuss the pop culture effect on real research, and how we're having a very hard time trying to actually prove this creature in existence nowadays because of the popularity of it, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what, Jeff, you bring up in your book, American Bigfoot, the two classes of the Bigfoot enthusiasts, which I thought was brilliantly stated. And this is what you wrote. Bigfoot enthusiast A wants to find Bigfoot as evidence. Bigfoot person B wants to find evidence of Bigfoot. So what's the difference between the two?
Yes. Well, everybody's out there looking for Bigfoot, nowadays, but does anybody really have an end game if they find him? Is their goal to take another photograph to put up on the web and say, look, here's Bigfoot, and everybody goes, I don't know if it's real, it's digital, it could be anything. It could be altered, could be, who knows? And then there's people out there who actually want to get this creature and actually want to capture it, kill it, whatever. Mm-hmm. Actually prove the existence of it with some physical evidence. And there's so many people out there nowadays who seem to be chasing the evidence. Okay, here's some footprints. What's the first thing you do when you find Bigfoot footprints? What's the first thing that comes to mind? What comes to my mind in the pop culture today is, let's get some cement and make some casts of it. Okay? What's in the forefront of my mind when I'm out there doing research is, let's follow the tracks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Let's see where the tracks lead. And that's kind of just a symptom of our day and age. Everybody's into this, take a picture, take a cast, and that's cool, but the evidence should be for real researchers, not looking for evidence, but looking for the creature. If you find evidence like that, great, follow the evidence,
Right.
But so many people claiming to be able to prove Bigfoot just by a digital piece of equipment, that's not going to happen. I don't care how good the footage is, I don't care how clear it is, and I don't care how long it is. If you have the perfect image of a Bigfoot on the most high-definition equipment nowadays, I am absolutely convinced it would intrigue a whole lot of people, but at the same time it would prove absolutely nothing.
Well, you know what? As a paranormal researcher and an investigator, I do find this example in the paranormal community as well. So, do you think that the Bigfoot enthusiast B may hold back the true research and could possibly be the reason why we possibly have missed the mark in finding the truth?
Well, those kind of Bigfoot researchers, are a little more than enthusiasts in the reality of things. And that's fine. If people want to just go out and if they see Bigfoot, take a picture, I would too. I don't have a problem with that, with the casual observers. But when the researchers are out there, people claim to be people in the field trying to capture this thing and prove it, it gets a little bit weird when they're just looking for more photographic evidence and, making castings of footprints and taking pictures of broken trees and saying they're a snuggle nest for Bigfoot. These things are good, and these evidences can be useful, and they could be the real deal. I'm not questioning that. What I'm saying, though, is these should be, for the researcher, these should be pointing to the Bigfoot. Let's follow the evidence and quit looking at, making a showcase of our casts, and let's have an end game. And a lot of these people out there trying to prove Bigfoot are going about it the wrong way. And then,
if we did catch Bigfoot, though, you say that the novelty would actually eventually wear off, and no one would care after several years. But do you think that the discovery of Bigfoot would actually change science or even the world's view of other phenomena?
I think it would sober a lot of people about Bigfoot. In other words, it wouldn't be this monster we see on TV, read about in the books, magazines, see in the movie posters. It would be rather normal. And it would be a rather humbling experience, I think, for most people, to learn that this wasn't some crazy, bloodthirsty monster or something. That being said, I'm not saying it's not interesting. Finding Bigfoot would be wonderful, and that's one of my goals in life. But it's once it's captured and available for all to see in the zoo, it ain't maybe your third or fourth visit to your stepping on by to go see the baby sloth, like I said in my book. It's one of those things that it would become normal, and it would be a big to do, absolutely. But I believe this thing would be rather normal, and I don't fault pop culture for the portrayals of Bigfoot because I write books, I even write fiction, and I love the whole concept of the monster Bigfoot.
Right.
I just don't think it's quite like that if we were to find the creature. Personally, I could be wrong, but there's many diverse descriptions of this creature. You can look into everybody's look through history, and that's what I have on my website, pattersonfilm.com. A lot of it's history, a lot of newspaper articles that go back, and you can see trends. When you're a historian, you're trained to see trends in things. And certain decades, you will notice that certain things start appearing in this Bigfoot creature, certain characteristics. I can trace some of them back to certain articles. All of a sudden Bigfoot howls and whoops. I can look back in articles and actually trace it to a time period where this first occurred. And then what happens is eventually, over time, these things become normal. These things become the standard, and this becomes everybody's idea of what Bigfoot is. It's one of these things that you don't know what to believe a lot of the times when you're sitting here reading through some of this stuff. It's like, is this real, or is this, it's a very confusing, difficult job being a cryptozoologist, I'll tell you that much.
I'm sure it is. There's a line in your book that I found actually to be one of my aha moments that I took to even describe the paranormal community and not just Bigfoot seekers. And if you don't mind, this is what you wrote. There are many diverse people interested in the subject, and needless to say, not all of them are in it for the same reason. If you've ever been to a baseball game, it is obvious that not everyone in the stadium is there for the same reason either. Some are there to watch the game, some are there to play the game, others are there to make a living selling hot dogs. I thought that this was the absolute best way to describe it. I know what the theory is, but what's the theory behind this description?
Well, it's just my my outlook, basically, and I'm glad you picked up on that, because it's a lot of what I put in my books and I apply to Bigfoot can be applied to a lot of other things in life, too. It just, as you just saw there with the paranormal thing, you can apply a lot of this stuff in this to anything in the paranormal.
Right.
So even if Bigfoot isn't your thing, you're going to get a lot out of American Bigfoot just from reading it. And it's going to point out some things that you never saw coming in a Bigfoot book, especially. But yeah, it's just basically a philosophy. Everybody's there. Everybody has different motivations for being there. When you're at a conference or a seminar, any sort of get-together of like-minded people, you're not all like-minded. You have different motives. Some people are there to deceive people, and some people are there are just on the fence, and some people there are just there to hang out, and some people there are serious, hardcore researchers. And so you have to have that mindset when you're in any field where there's a potential of getting fooled, manipulated, hoaxed by people. And so anybody who's into the paranormal will get a lot of information out of American Bigfoot, because it goes into philosophies too. It is as much a philosophy book as it is a history book as it is a theoretical book. I'll put it to you that way. You're going to get a lot out of it.
Well, you know what? In the book, you do mention groups, that make up the Bigfoot pop culture. The research hoaxer, the self-deluded, the hardened skeptic, the legitimate researchers and enthusiasts, the entertainment seekers, the obsessed believers, deceivers and hoaxers. In your opinion, which do you believe make up most of the Bigfoot community?
Well, I think it's actually fairly proportioned, I would say. So how many ever categories? I give them fairly equal proportions. It's very difficult to discern all these types. You'd have to sit there and psychoanalyze every person if you're in a room full of 100 people in any given night. It's too difficult to try to figure out who's who. It's just more of a beware. There's all these different types of people out there. So when you're out there researching, you don't want to be involved with people in there who are doing this for the wrong motives, who are there to hoax you, who are there to get something out of it, who are there for a laugh. And a lot of researchers get, or want to be researchers too, they want to get into this field of looking for Bigfoot. I say just go do it. Don't hook up with an organization. Don't get strung along by these people, or just figure out if you got a really close friend who's really into it like you are, go for it. If not, go alone. These things are better sought out alone versus going on some expedition that you pay X amount of money and everybody pays a little bit of, these things, while, they're fun, social, they're not really going to help out finding Bigfoot. So if you want to go for that kind of angle, get social, go for it. But just realize that if you're a serious individual, you really need to just figure something out for yourself, because too many times people get deceived by going with the wrong people.
That's really amazing, because you can really apply that to paranormal investigating.
Absolutely. And I meant this thing to be a very as much as this book is specific in a very number of ways about Bigfoot and what's going on today, a lot of it can be into anything, whatever you're into. If you're into the seeking all kinds of mysteries, there's people in it for wrong reasons in every type of field.
Right. Well, you also talk about how even if we had the best camera, best recording evidence that showed evidence, best recording equipment that showed evidence of a real Bigfoot, it would still be scrutinized, and the legitimacy of the film would come under fire because of the technological world we live in now. So, does that in fact give more credibility to the Patterson film from the 1960s?
It does. Absolutely. You got my point. You've really read my book, and I appreciate it. You're really getting what I'm saying here. And this applies to absolutely everything. And I mean not just paranormal stuff. I mean day-to-day stuff you see on TV, stuff that gets reported in the news. When you see digital technology, you are seeing a medium that is, in a sense, a liar. It's a lying technology that we're dealing with. And I go through that in my book, American Bigfoot. It's a concept. If you get a hold of it and you grasp it, it'll kind of change your life if you really, really understand it and think about it, and not just go through my book really quick, but actually sit there and ponder it for a while. What are the implications of living in an age where everything we see is in the medium of digital? Well, digital is a medium that can be manipulated incredibly easy. It's a medium that can take true photographs and be manipulated to however it suits you. So you can not only conjure up stuff from scratch, images, but you can also mold existing images in a sense. And just shape them like clay, make them do whatever you want. If you're good enough, or you have the best, not even really good, a lot of it can be done on a Mac.
Right.
So images being manipulable in this day and age is something that has huge implications. Whereas back in Roger Patterson's day, we had an honest medium, one that did not lie, one that you could look at and see a physical receipt, if you will, which was the celluloid film. That was the image. It was on that film. Now, whatever was captured on that film, you can make the case for Roger Patterson's film that was just a man in a gorilla suit. Okay. But whatever was captured on that film was exactly what Roger Patterson saw through his eye. So everything back then had to be done at the post-production level. There was no faking of celluloid film, not in any real way where you could actually, it would stand up to any scrutiny. Whereas in this day and age, you can't tell me if what you're seeing is real when it's presented to you, whether it's in the movies, whether it's on television, whether it's a lizard trying to sell you insurance. These are just things that are in our culture nowadays that you don't know what's real anymore. And that could be something is something like even on the news, Here's a clip from this. Did that really happen? Do you know that that's real footage? Do you know that it hasn't been altered and some part of something a little bit bigger, Not saying everything is, but it happens. If it can happen, it will happen.
We actually just had from the Boston bombings a couple of weeks ago, our local Daily News newspaper here in New York actually manipulated one of the photos that they caught I think it was right after the blast had happened, of the victims. And they chose to choose this picture. It was very gruesome, but what they did then was manipulated the leg of the victim and colored it in so it matched the pants, so you did not see the wound. Now, the question came up, I remember all in the news reports, is why would they pick that picture if they had to manipulate it that way? But it wasn't brought up to anybody's attention until someone investigated and showed that simply all they did was cover it up and show that the pants was fully, that their leg was fully clothed with the pants and you didn't see the wound. I mean, anything can happen and anybody can do it. Even the news and the media can do this.
Yeah, and it happens. And a lot of times it's happening without us even knowing it. I'll put it to you this way. Anybody with an agenda can make digital technology do whatever they want.
Right.
You know, you got people with no talent making records nowadays because they can manipulate their voice via, once again, digital technology. So it's not just in the visual realm too; it's also in the audio realm. Digital is a very mysterious format, but it's not proof of anything, and that's where it goes back to the whole proving of paranormal and Bigfoot. Our cameras are no longer proof.
Right.
It's getting to that point, so that has broad implications in all kinds of realms. But in the Bigfoot realm, we're going to try to stick back to that, I'm sure, and it's it just goes down to, okay, if you get another picture of Bigfoot, that's good evidence. It's evidence, but who's it evidence for? Is it evidence for the world? No. It's evidence for you. In other words, if I put a trail camera out there and I planted it out in the wilderness where I know nobody could have just been, so-called monkeying around out there, I'd put it in a spot where, I'd go out there alone and just plant it out there. Now, if I get an image of Bigfoot on there, I know for a fact that it is Bigfoot. That is proof positive to me that Bigfoot exists. Absolutely proof positive, 100%. I can go to sleep tonight knowing Bigfoot exists. Okay. Now, if I put that on my website, release it to the news, what's going to happen? Should I expect you all out there in Radio Land to believe my picture? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It proves nothing. It should prove nothing to you. It should maybe pique your curiosity. You might take my word for it, but at the same time, it's not proof of anything. And I wouldn't expect it to be proof of anything, nor should the people who are releasing stuff, almost daily, weekly on YouTube and other websites. And it's proof of nothing. So when people sit there and grandstand a picture as proof of Bigfoot, I say, hey, keep it to yourself, show it to a couple people, post it on your website or blog, but it's not going to prove anything. It's when people start making a big deal out of these certain images that it becomes almost to the point where you wonder if these people are even thinking. Are these people hoaxers? It should be proof to me, and I should use that evidence to know that Bigfoot has been spotted in this certain area because I've got that on my trail cam, and I should be staking out that area, figuring out a game plan to either shoot, tranquilize, or wrestle this bad boy to the ground. It's one of those things that until we have a Bigfoot, we're not going to know if it exists. And a lot of that is to blame for the technology. Once again, if we go back to the days of Roger Patterson, I firmly believe, and I talk about this more in American Bigfoot, that if Roger Patterson would have gotten just a little bit better shot, I think that it should have been proof positive that it was an actual Bigfoot. If this thing was clear, seeing it was on the celluloid film. Because you can tell with certain actions and motions, if you get a clear enough shot, if something's a real moving, living animal. In other words, if you see a rhinoceros, you know it's not a guy in a rhinoceros suit, just by watching the gait and the motion if you get a clear shot.
Right.
So I believe Roger Patterson could have, in that era, or anybody else, could have actually captured a Bigfoot clear enough to actually, that it would withstand any scrutiny, that you could say the existence of Bigfoot is true because of this piece of film. But
I agree.
If it was digital back then, it would be null and void.
Yeah.
So it's a broad concept, but if you get into it in my book, American Bigfoot, it's really life changing when you think of the broader implications.
Lucy and I, at one point, late last year, we had booked a guest that we later decided not to have on because we felt that there was just too much controversy and hate associated with this person in the Bigfoot community. Now, you mentioned in the book that the Bigfoot community has attracted more men than women, and it may be because of the sort of ego and testosterone thing that appeals to men. As a whole, do you think the Bigfoot community and all the groups and researchers out there will eventually find and prove Bigfoot exists?
I personally don't, because I don't even think they're really looking for him. I think a lot of the people in there are just in it for the other reasons, and that's fine. most of the reasons are fine. I mean, I think a lot of people are in it for fun, entertainment, something casual to do, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But the more people out there seriously looking for Bigfoot that actually have a way to capture it, a way to actually prove its existence by saying, here's the beast. Those are the real researchers, and the other people out there with camera, they're researching, but their research is not going to inevitably prove Bigfoot. They might discover something about Bigfoot. They might discover another print. They might discover some hair. But the type of research they're doing is not the type that's actually going to bring an end to the mystery. And, there are a lot of controversial figures in this world of Bigfoot. And actually, I tend to stay away from pretty much everybody. I mean, I know people, trust me, I know people, but I don't know them that well. I'm not hooked in with any organizations. I'm definitely a lone wolf in this.
Right.
My thoughts are my own. My conclusions are my own. I don't sit there and research people and just copy their work. I'm doing my own thing.
Well, speaking of your thoughts and going on to the more pop culture side, what are your thoughts on the Bigfoot shows that are on television? Do you feel that they're just sensationalizing the study of Bigfoot, or is any attention to the field of Bigfoot good intention?
Well, believe it or not, I don't have a problem with the shows. I like the shows. I watch them. The documentaries, the Finding Bigfoot show. I mean, I don't have a problem with any of it. And it's some people see it as more entertainment. Some people think it's more real. I think it's probably a little combination. I think the good thing is they're out there looking for Bigfoot, and if they come across it, they're going to show it. They're making a show and that sort of thing, but at the same time, it's like, they're out there with some good equipment. They're looking, and if they show us any evidence, it's entertaining, it's interesting, it's you never know what they'll discover. So I think anybody out there looking is good, and especially when you have that kind of equipment and cameras, I don't have a problem with the show. But are they going to find Bigfoot? I don't know. I mean, is anybody going to find Bigfoot? We'll see. I think, the best thing they could do in their position, what they're doing is, they could get some good images for us.
Right.
Maybe find some territories that are hot, but then again, with the pop culture comes there's a downside to it too. It does create a sense of there's more hoaxing going on more than ever. That's one of the problems. Once something becomes popular, it gets into every aspect of life, every corner of the North America here. And next thing you know, we have a sort of pop culture of Bigfoot hoaxing. And I go through that in my book, American Bigfoot. I talk about the negative side of the pop culture, and it's not anybody to blame. It's just that's the way it is. That's the cause and effect of it. When you have a lot of images of Bigfoot being broadcast at you through the pop culture, the media, things like that, it has an effect on kids and adults, and everybody gets goofy with it, and next thing you know, it's you're seeing all kinds of hoax stuff on YouTube. You're seeing all kinds of clips out there that are just dubious at best. There's a lot of things to be said for it, but it's an interesting predicament, really. Pop culture is a funny thing.
You get a lot within the Bigfoot community of the hoaxing, but I think you also get a lot outside. The kids that are just in it for fun, just to put a funny clip, say, on YouTube. YouTube. I think that is a detriment as well.
Yeah, and then you have people arguing over it who are in the Bigfoot world, looking at these clips, trying to decide if they're real. Maybe it sparks interest in a certain area, and then next thing you know, there's people. You got all these people following hoaxes versus actually people doing real research and finding the real creature. It actually puts people on the wrong track who are following a lot of these false leads that are coming out. And it's pretty epidemic. I mean, I don't know how the people who do that sort of thing, that track it all over the country anytime they hear a sighting, or there's a few people out there who are pretty hardcore about it, but it becomes so you're just chasing phantoms. You don't know what's real. If you got one real report out of 100, what's the odds of you actually deciding to find that one real report and go follow it?
Right.
Versus if you're doing your own research in your own areas, and everything you're doing is for your own purposes, you can follow your own research. You can believe it. Versus following everybody else's, hey, here's Bigfoot, hey, there's Bigfoot,
Yeah.
There's just too much tomfoolery out there nowadays to even consider just blindly following leads. It's just epidemic.
Well, you know what? Talking about hoaxing, one of the more controversial sections in your book is the talk about wannabe Indian tribes. Okay, now, as I know, Bigfoot stories are nothing new. They've been around for hundreds of years, if not longer. Now, are there people out there claiming to be of Native American descent and a Bigfoot researcher only to create credibility to their experiences and talk?
Yeah, I go about that in my book, American Bigfoot. I talk about there's actually people out there that have been in the news and been exposed throughout the years that have been pretending to be Native Americans and other things as well. I just use that as an example. I also use that people pretend to be war heroes. They make little speeches at these VFWs. They make livings out of it. Some people have tried to fake being Indians for various reasons, and you got the famous Indian out there, Iron Eyes Cody. I think he was a full-blooded Italian.
Right, right.
This is crazy stuff. That was the crying Indian, the symbol of the pollution ads in the 70s, and it wasn't that he just played Indians in TV, which he did all the time, but he was actually either he was deluded or he was just pretending that he was an Indian. I don't know which one happened. But it's on record that his parents are straight from the boat Italian, so me being of Italian descent, I thought maybe I could get some parts in a spaghetti western coming up or something, but who knows? But that's crazy. But the same thing happens in every field, and that was my point too. You've got people portraying themselves to be things that really they're not. You got wannabe authors out there writing crazy books about Bigfoot, and I'm not talking about a lot of the mainstream ones, but especially like when you get into some of those underground books and weird little books in bound spiral that people have been passing around for years of certain encounters, and you start researching them, and it just, it's hard to know what to believe. And when you just start looking at all these different types of what is Bigfoot books, this is my encounter, this is what he does, this is how Bigfoot acts, this is how he sleeps, this is what he eats. We think we have all these things mapped out because you read these books, and especially the people who are hardcore about Bigfoot, they read a lot of these books. And a lot of these things are passed around at trade shows and Bigfoot conventions, and for the people really into studying it, whether it's just an armchair hobby or whatever, you get a very distorted perception. That's so diverse. This must be the most diverse creature on Earth when you start looking through all this evidence. And I just go into my book too about the types of books out there. Some of these authors, I think, have written some of these things. They're just trying to make quick cash. I don't even know.
Right.
Maybe they're stay-at-home mom writing this stuff, trying to make some extra money to buy diapers or something. I don't know. That's just the vibe I get from some of these books, because I've read just about every one of them, and it's like, somebody ain't telling the truth here. Whether it's either this guy or it's that guy, but they both can't be right. This ain't the same creature. So there's a lot of misconceptions about Bigfoot, and a lot of things have been normalized into the behavior of this creature that we just simply don't know to be fact at this point. And you can say it as a theory that Bigfoot eats this, sleeps there, and does that, and wears this, or whatever. You can say that as a fact, but it's not a fact. But a lot of people have this in their mind that Bigfoot has to do this. This is a sign of Bigfoot when you're looking through the woods. Bent over trees, Bigfoot snuggles up in there and goes to sleep at night. How do we know this? This is not an established fact. It might be true, but once again, we don't know that as an established fact. These are things that have been brought about, some of them, throughout time. In other words, you won't see certain reports of this type of behavior before a certain article back in 1995, let's say. You go back before that, any article you can find about Bigfoot, no such type of behavior exists. So these are things that get brought into and kind of create a what I call the psychological Sasquatch. You get this creature that you have in your mind when you think of Bigfoot. Everybody's got their own vision of it, and a lot of it's composites of various things throughout our days. Patterson film, the Jack Link's Bigfoot, and maybe Harry and the Hendersons. Some kind of composite in your brain of what Bigfoot should look like. Whereas nobody, most people have not actually seen Bigfoot or even claimed to seen Bigfoot, and the ones who have, we're taking their word for their description is one, accurate, and two, it's truthful.
Right. Well, you know what, Jeff? I know your book is titled American Bigfoot, but have you been able to compare and contrast any differences between sightings and groups in American and those overseas and in other countries?
There's similarities to a lot of these creatures' legends across the world. They're not as prolific in certain cultures, and nobody has the Bigfoot sightings or the mania like we do here in North America. It's very much a North American phenomenon, and it does go back all the way to the days of the tribal Indians here. Various tribes had legends, and it's been going on for a long time around here. But there are reports in Russia. There are reports down in Australia. You've got obviously the Himalayas. You have the Yeti. Other parts of the world have mystery apes as well. So are they all Bigfoot? I don't know. We don't know. But some people in their approach on Bigfoot have these things already separated out into, kingdom, phylum, genus, species, all this thing, order, and they got these Bigfoots categorized, and we don't know that much about them yet, folks. Let's not jump the gun. We're putting the cart before the horse. That's kind of my message.
Right. I'm not sure if it's just me, and I think you mentioned this earlier in the interview, but it seems that there's been a rise in Bigfoot sightings over the last few years. And I think the same can be said for UFOs and other paranormal fields. What do you believe is the cause for the rise in the sightings?
Well, I'm definitely certain that the media is a huge factor. You can start a lot of things in the media that have no basis in reality, and all of a sudden they will, just because it's everywhere, whether it's in the fiction media, whether it's in the fact media, whether it's in the news. Once these ideas are getting spread, there becomes sort of a psychological effect on people. So you can create new things and new manias based on just exposure alone. It's advertising in a sense.
Do you think also maybe it has something to do with technology? Everybody's got a cell phone with a camera on it, and possibly could be seeing more sightings, and just because of the ease of the technology, that could be the rise of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, back in Roger Patterson's day, when him and Bob Gimlin set out that fateful evening there, that day in 1967, they had some serious equipment with them. They had to pay some serious money. They had to learn how to use it. It wasn't just a point and shoot kind of deal. You had to learn how to loan it, what to do, unload it properly. You have to learn the focus, the aperture, the settings. You have to know something about it. Not today where any boob who's got a camera just points it and shoots it. It's like we don't have to know anything. We just point and shoot. It takes care of it. Back in that day, you had to know something. You had to have some money. This had to be a real event. You know what I mean? If you're going to take a camera out there, you had to be. It was an investment, and you would think that the idea that having everybody's got a camera on them at all times, which we all do, basically, it would in a sense, it should be something that should prove Bigfoot easier, or we should have more sightings. Well, we have more clips than ever, but none of them are curious cases. They're either, yeah, I can't tell, or, you know what, it doesn't look like Bigfoot, but then again, once we get down to it, it's all in the digital realm, so what really, you know, we're always questioning the format.
Right.
So it's yeah, we got more conveniences, but for one, not everybody's out in the deep woods with them. You know, Bigfoot's not going to hang out at the corner, you know, half-acre lot in most people's neighborhood that's wooded. You know, it's like a lot of people live in very industrial areas or suburbs or just in areas that aren't really Bigfoot or Squatchy, as they like to say nowadays, the kids. So it's one of those things that technology has come so far and have gotten cheaper and easier, and that's actually has good effects, but the bad effects are, yeah, everybody's going to be making these quick little films. Everybody's going to be, you know, getting online and renting a gorilla costume, and next thing you know, 3 days later, you know, for less than $200, you got something uploaded to YouTube that people are going, wow, is that Bigfoot? Is that a Sasquatch? And everybody's sitting there trying to figure it out, and it's like, no, it's a couple of clowns just hanging out, having a sleepover on a weekend night, you know, a couple of 14-year-olds or something, or who knows, you know. A couple of film students, you don't know. I mean, these things are easily done nowadays, whereas back in the day, to hoax something, there's a lot of money, time, things involved. I mean, back then, too, in Roger Patterson's day, he, you know, was paying a lot of money for every second of film that went by. That stuff was not cheap. It cost money to develop it, and plus, you bought a roll. It was either 3 minutes or 5 minutes per roll, and you'd look through it, and you don't know what you got on there. You don't know if it was out of focus. You don't know if it the lighting was wrong, if what you captured looked real, if you're doing a hoax.
Right.
Nowadays, you can sit all day and do 1,000 takes in a row, just erasing the one before it, or just keep taping them and pick the best one. There's endless takes nowadays. Endless. As many times as you want to walk around in a Bigfoot suit and have somebody jam a camera on you, you could do it till you get it and it looks just right. So we got, you know, 1,000 times the advantage to make something more believable than the Patterson film, yet why hasn't anybody done it? That's one of the most amazing things about the Patterson film.
Your book is not only thought-provoking and educational, but there's also, and I think you mentioned this, bits of humor to sort of lighten the mood and relate to the readers. Now, one bit of humor that I thought was so awesome was the section on nominating Bigfoot. Can you briefly tell our listeners why you want to nominate Bigfoot and for what?
Yeah, that was some pretty messed up stuff I put in there. It was so horrible. It was, yeah, I don't even know why I did it. You know, I just get these weird ideas, and it's like, you know what, I'm going to put it in my book. There's a few pages left. Why not? You know, stew on that. Yeah, my nomination was Bigfoot for president. Why not? He's a symbol of our country. He goes back further than the American eagle. You know, it used to be the turkey was the original symbol proposed for America, but I say it should be Bigfoot. And I think he should be nominate him for president because he would do lots of good things, like found the Mount Squatchmore Memorial Boondoggle, and we'd put people of Bigfoot fame up there, including Bigfoot and Bob Hieronymus, to divide the country even more. And yeah, it was a crazy little bit I did. I think it should be a little skit, really. I think I
love it. I just love it
on Saturday Night Live. So if you got any comedy people out there, hello, anybody listening, buy my book, American Bigfoot. There's a really cool comedy bit at the end. So, hey, read it, call me, we'll get in touch, okay? Yeah, I don't know. It was good stuff. I'm glad you appreciated it.
I did. I really did.
It was hilarious. You know what? Okay. So, Jeff, I'm going to give you 3 points of time, okay? Past, present, and future. Now, in a sentence or two, can you describe what the Bigfoot research, community, evidence, and anything else associated with Bigfoot means to you, or what has been formulated during that period, okay? So, like, the first one would be the past.
Oh, what it means to me.
Yeah.
Incredibly nostalgic for the past in the Bigfoot world. It was a very good time back in after a Patterson film. I mean, it's almost like the we divide time by Christ and the resurrection, the AD and the BC. This was almost like the that of the cryptozoology world was the after the Patterson film and everything before it. It's like that really changed a lot. It was something that created a pop culture in the 70s, and we have an entire generation that was raised on Bigfoot, which a lot of us were, just in the media, the culture, and it was everywhere back then, and it's everywhere again. And a lot of that, too, I think is part and parcel because of people are getting older who were raised back in that generation around that Bigfoot stuff when it was going on, and saw the movies and the TV shows and everything else and nowadays I think a lot of that is coming back for that same reason.
Okay.
So that's what the past is in the world of cryptozoology and Bigfoot to me.
Okay, how about the present?
The present is it's very interesting. I mean, there's a lot of Bigfoot stuff going on. I mean, there's movies being made. I'm thankful for that. Shows. It's a fun time to like Bigfoot. We've got people out there looking for Bigfoot in a very real way. We've got a lot of people just casually doing it, and that's fun and fine. And then we got a lot of people just playing crazy pranks and hoaxes, and some of them are pretty big in the media, like, trying to sell a broken freezer with a Bigfoot suit in it and that sort of thing. So that's the present we live in. It's bigger than it actually was back in the 70s. As far as its effect and the people looking for Bigfoot and the serious researchers and everything. It's huge. So there's a lot of good things, a lot of bad things, a lot of weird things going on.
Okay, so finally the future.
The future. I think the future looks grim for Bigfoot. That's just my personal take. Because at this point in time, I don't know how many of these creatures exist. I'm not saying it's extinct, but I'm saying it could be extinct.
Mm-hmm.
It could. It's a possibility, and I'm not saying I buy into this. This is not my theory, but in my book, American Bigfoot, I do discuss different paths, different avenues, different what-ifs about Bigfoot. So when you hear me kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth, sometimes it's because I do theories. I don't sit there and give you agendas. I give you, well, what if this were, the case? And then I propose a different theory, and I'll let you, the reader, try to choose your own path to see what do you believe. The future, it could be that Bigfoot is very low numbers or possibly extinct. And I even go through the possibility that it is very much a possibility that Bigfoot has never existed, which to me, being the strange weirdo that I am, actually find that more fascinating than if Bigfoot does exist. Because if we find Bigfoot or we know him to exist, it's a mysterious unknown creature that we discovered, some kind of hairy ape that we never seen, and I don't know. I mean, that's cool, but it's kind of what you expect, and we do discover animals all the time, believe it or not. A lot of them aren't that interesting like Bigfoot, but every year we discover new creatures that we didn't know existed. So the idea of Bigfoot not existing is something that becomes a psychological mania that's existed for hundreds of years, and maybe even longer. A kind of a game, a kind of a weird obsession that's been going on and building and breeding within the minds of millions of people. That's some spooky crap when you think about it.
Oh God.
It's frightening, but it's true. I mean, that's what Bigfoot would be. It'd be the psychological Sasquatch, and it's coming up, and it's been going through generations, and now it's a mania, and people are obsessed with it, and it's kind of a possession. It gets weird. You don't want it to get to that point for you, but I'm just saying it's something that's fascinating if it doesn't exist. That it does exist in the minds of men.
Well, one thing I did want to ask you, Jeff, is how has the new book, American Bigfoot, been received by your colleagues or even skeptics?
I don't know, because I don't really pay attention to what people say about me. I try not to. People are buying the book, and I've not got any negative reviews about it that I've seen, or it's been well received. I've gotten several compliments, just emails, people saying, "Hey, I love this book," and they thought it was better than the Great Bigfoot Film Mystery, which is they loved. So I've had some really good reviews like that from people I trust, people I know, from people I don't know. So it's I don't sit there and search through all the possible reviews about it, but it's gotten good response, and I think people really appreciate it because it's something different. It's not the same old Bigfoot book about the same dry read. I once said I found a fortune cookie a long time ago that I cracked it open. It said, it's never good to write I don't know, it's funnier in my book, but life's too short to write dry book about Yeti. That's what it said, okay. I don't know. Once again, if you got any comedy shows, give me a call. No, I'm a very funny guy. If you get to know me, I'm a crack up, but at the same time, I'm very serious about my research. So I kind of combine the two in the book too. I don't want anybody to be sitting there going, I got to go to sleep. I need something to read. Oh, I'll pick up that Jeff Hilling book again and just sit there and nod off to it.
No, absolutely not. I read that book. I read a book in one night, and I loved it. I really, really loved it, and I actually started to read it again because I wanted to get more detail, get more of the specifics in there, because you mixed, and just like you said, you mixed the humor and the research together so well that it actually, I didn't have to read it. It read it itself.
Well, I'm glad you saw that, and I really appreciate this coming out of your mouth, because I trust you, and I didn't even know you bought my book. So I just showed up on the show and you're talking about my book, and it's like, wow, this guy's got his act together. Most of the time I go on these shows and people are like, you wrote a book about the chupacabra. That's Bigfoot. Oh, Bigfoot, yeah, and I guess Jeff Hilling, No,
no.
Together, and I appreciate that. I mean, it's honestly, it's probably the best show I've been on in a long time. It's a really good show.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Well, you know what, Jeff? It was an easy read. It was very enjoyable. But you kind of hinted at a few things before. But is there anything new coming up for Jeff? Any trips or events, or maybe even another book in the works?
Yeah, I'm working on a book right now. It's going to be another fiction book. I do have a fiction book out right now. I just released it at the same time as American Bigfoot. It's called Bigfoot Booyah. Crazy mix of different Bigfoot-related stories for you fiction lovers. I dabble in fiction as well, and I'm doing another fiction book too about Bigfoot in a cave and a green orb. So that'll be a good one too. It'll be a very interesting book. And I'm also working behind the scenes on the Skooka movie. I'm the creator of the mask of that movie. So when you see the Bigfoot, I designed it. That was pretty interesting and fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I got some other projects in the works that I cannot divulge right now, but I would love to, in the future when they get finalized, I'd love to come back on and talk about them some more.
Absolutely.
Of course.
But, that's what I got going on right now. It's been fun. This book's been just jumping pretty good. I mean, at Barnes & Noble, it's really been climbing, and I don't know, I'm just really happy at the response, that people like the book, that people find it interesting, people like to read it. I try to make it fun, but it's not a book that's always, it's not inappropriately funny. It's funny at the right times and in the right ways, and just it's a little bit weird. So if you're into weird things, buy it.
Well, you know what? The book is awesome. The book was fun to read. And you know what, Jeff? It's been so great to have you on the show. You are absolutely fun. And you know what? We always learn something new when we talk to you. So we do wish you the best. And, of course, we need to have you back on in the future.
All right. I would love to come back. This is the funnest show I do. I could just kind of cut loose and be myself and talk about serious things and be funny, and it's not too uptight. And you guys have your act together, and I love it. So anytime you want to have me, if you need a give me a jingle, or I will call you when I have some later developments on what I'm doing here behind the scenes. It's going to be some interesting stuff.
Awesome. So for our listeners out there, go to pattersonfilm.com. You can learn more about Jeff Hilling. You can check out his other books, including American Bigfoot, which we just talked about, and even check out Bigfoot Booyah, which I'm actually going to go and get this weekend and read, because that sounds interesting. So, Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. And again, we'll be in touch. You know, you can always reach out to us and let us know when that whole secret is lifted, and we can have you back on the show.
Absolutely. May the Lord bless you and your listeners, and you guys have a great night. Keep up the great work on your show.
You too, Jeff. Have a great one.
You,
take care now.
You too. Thank you.
Have a
Bye-bye.
wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
I really did. Honestly, I really did like this book. It's a very quick book. It's a very quick read. So it's, you know, if you're thinking that you have to sit through, 500 pages of research on Bigfoot or on pop culture of Bigfoot, you really don't. He gets to the point. He hits the points very eloquently, and he does it, and he doesn't go off into the I want to say, I don't know, for the lack of trying to figure out the words, he doesn't go into big words, He doesn't break out the dictionary and tries to find these odd, weird, long words to describe Bigfoot and the research community and all that. He really hits it. He does it in layman's terms, and he gives you the facts, and then also does it with a smile, with a little laugh. So he lightens the mood, gets you interested, and you're able to follow along with it. And he makes some great points. And I do want to just bring up that one point that I brought up to him before, which now I can't find. Here it goes, which was my aha moment. And Lucy, I know we've talked about this sort of statement that he says on other shows that we've done. And this is what he wrote in the book. There are many diverse people interested in the subject, and needless to say, not all of them are in it for the same reason. If you've ever been to a baseball game, it is obvious that not everyone in the stadium is there for the same reason either. Some are there to watch the game, some are there to play the game, others are there to make a living selling hot dogs. I fell in love with this statement, and I have continually just reread that over in my head all the time. And when I read that, instantly I thought about what, Lucy, you and I do in the paranormal world, and the people that we interact with and come in contact with, that it's the same thing. And I just love that last line, is that, others are there to make a living selling hot dogs. That, to me, epitomizes the community that we work in and that we investigate in. But as Jeff was saying before, that applies to pretty much everything. That's the entertainment world. That's the sports world. That's the academic world. That's all of that. Like that, there are all these different types of levels of people and how it can relate to everything other than Bigfoot. But I think for Bigfoot in general, because it is a much more controversial community, I think, Bigfoot community is, that it's I guess there's a lot more weeds to cut through within the Bigfoot community than there is in just the general paranormal community. But I just love the way that he gave these little one-liners throughout the book that really made sense, and I could be able to apply it to many other things, not just Bigfoot.
Well, you know what? That was reading the book, and thank you, Jeff, for not using the big words, because it made it very easy for me. Everything, all the points that he was bringing up, all I kept thinking of was like, oh, my God, I could be reading about the paranormal community. I mean, everything was so transferable. And you're right, the one statement about what people are in it for, the different kinds of people, you can go to any paranormal convention and you could pick them out one by one to see which one these people are. And it is, this book transcends all different communities. It's not just the Bigfoot community. It can be applied to work. It could be applied to your office. It could be applied to paranormal investigating. It could be applied to so many different things. It was really an enjoyable read.
Well, the one thing that attracted me to Jeff Helding a while ago when we first had him on the show was the other book, The Great Bigfoot Film Mystery, I think that's what it's called, which talked about the Patterson-Gimlin film. And I've always been fascinated with that piece of film footage, always. And I'm not a big, and I say this all the time, I'm not a big Bigfoot researcher or historian on it. I mean, I love all these mysterious paranormal theories and stories and topics. Bigfoot is on the list, but it's a little bit lower than, UFOs and conspiracies and spirits and ghosts, but it's still there on the list for me. But to be able, what's fascinating to me is for him to be able to captivate me in his writing says a lot. I really wish he would write. I honestly really wish he was a paranormal researcher, and he wrote books on that, because honestly I would be one of those diehard fans with a piece of oak tag paper standing out his window saying, thank you, Jeff, and chanting, because he really does, I think, a good deed to the Bigfoot community, and I think he sets things straight. I don't think he mentions it before, he's not in there to put anything dry or add fluff to anything or regurgitate what's out there. He does find a lot of new things and a lot of new twists and side angles to the Bigfoot community and the idea of finding Bigfoot. That's really very interesting and is thought-provoking, as I mentioned before, because he puts these theories in his books and in his writings, but he allows you to actually make your own opinion of it. He's not jamming anything down anyone's throat. He's just
preach.
Exactly, and it's sort of like what we do on the radio. We'll put the theories out there and let you guys decide. We'll even put our own evidence when we go out to locations, and when we come back, we don't say that that is the number one piece of fact evidence that we know that is, haunted, or that these are spirits. You know me, there's always a little bit of skepticism in me about anything, even the stuff that I do. But we do the same thing. We just put it out there for people to make their own opinions on, and if they don't believe it, great. And if they do believe it, great. I think it just fuels the topic itself for people to do their own research on. And that's exactly what Jeff was talking about, not hooking up within groups or following the leaders out there on their research and their ideas and their theories. It's, taking pen to pad and doing your own research and going in it alone so that you know that you are believing in something that you have found to be factual and not that you found someone else's research to be factual, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It goes back to what we've said before. Your truth is your own truth. And the good thing about Jeff, the couple things. The first thing, he has a sense of humor. And he interjects that. And I think too many people take themselves too seriously and, they this is it and this is the definitive evidence and I know this. He has a sense of humor about it. He states the fact, but he also lightens it up, which is brilliant. And I wish more people in the paranormal would be like that. Another thing, though, that he brought up, which was a little bit sad, was when he was talking about the Patterson film and, how that is actual film, and that nowadays with all of the digital cameras and the digital media, it's so easy to change things. I mean, we see this in the paranormal community with phone apps and with people that are changing the pictures, changing the lighting.
Photoshop.
Oh, God. It just happens so much to the point where the actual real evidence almost doesn't exist anymore. It's sad, and it's a little bit, it kind of makes me angry in a way. So I think he brings up some really, really great points. And again, the Bigfoot community, somehow I do agree that maybe it's because there's more guys, but it just seems like the controversy and the disputes are way more vocal and a little bit deeper than what we deal with the paranormal. I don't know. I would like to see someone. I would like to. Bigfoot has become such like a beloved figure. Bigfoot is kind of like truly like a something. When you look at Bigfoot, who doesn't like Bigfoot? Who doesn't get a smile when they look at one of these shows or when they look at evidence? So I'm really hoping that the future isn't as grim as he thinks it could be, and that maybe, someone will actually bring forth that evidence that Bigfoot does exist, or at least be able to clear up a lot of the misconceptions that are floating around.
Well, he said it before. I don't think, and I kind of agree with him, and again, I apply it to the paranormal community as well, or the paranormal field itself, that no matter how many pictures you take or how much video you take, you yourself may believe it because you know the circumstances of how that was taken, and either you were there at that moment or not, what was done prior to it and what was done after it. And so you believe it yourself, but if you put that on the web or if you show people, a mass amount of people, or give it to the news, it's not going to be believable because of the day and age of technology. So I think, going back to what Jeff was saying also too, that I don't think anybody would believe it other than actually having Bigfoot. And I kind of don't even think that would be even believable in itself, because I still think maybe for a while there would be still scrutiny in regards to you watching television and actually seeing Bigfoot come on, in a cage or whatever, or sitting on a couch. I think there would still be scrutiny to it to whether or not that it is believable. I think it would continue to go on, and I think there would be a good amount of people that still won't believe it, even though scientists have come forward or organizations have come forward and said, yes, this is the real thing. I still think that there would be a small percentage of people that still won't believe it. And it goes back to what you were saying, too, that, it's personal experience. You have to be there in the moment. You have to be able to be that person in front of them to make that decision. You can't believe what other people are showing you or telling you or professing to you, because it's not your experience. It's somebody else's experience that you're trying to believe.
Well, you know what? Part of me is hoping that they never, ever, ever catch Bigfoot, because to me, I don't want to see Bigfoot in a cage, and I don't want to see him being poked and prodded and experimented on. I like the image I have in my mind of Bigfoot being free, being in his own environment, and, just kind of tantalizing us with, like, maybe a glimpse here and there, a sound here and there. It truly is like a legend, but it's a legend that could be true, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. There's something I was just going to mention, and now I forgot it. I'm losing my mind. I'm completely... I had brought up during the interview that you and I were actually going to have a guest on last year on Bigfoot. And, I knew that this person was controversial within the Bigfoot community. And, the one side of me wanted to have this person on just to question the validity of some of the things and question some of the statements and experiences that this person claims, just so that we can find the truth, or hopefully put it out there and gather the truth from this person. But I didn't want to sort of sacrifice our show, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
To get that done, because this person is, later on, this person actually got worse, and there were a lot more controversial stuff that had happened around this said person, and I'm glad we didn't, because it would have made us look bad, number one. And number two, I truly think that this person is a liar, is a hoaxer, and I didn't want to entertain that aspect of it, or give it more hype, or give it the attention, because it only perpetuates more of it. And
right.
so we decided not to have this person on, and I think we made the right decision on it because that's not what we're all about. But it just irks me that these people are out there, and I know I'm not naive. I know that that there are people like that within everything, not just paranormal itself, but in every facet of this world there are people like that. But it just bothers me that people have that mentality, and they bring it within this field. Then why are you in this field? Why are you in, either it be a paranormal investigator or a Bigfoot researcher, a cryptozoologist, or a ufologist? If you're in it for defamation of people, of groups, and of bad-mouthing, and only of anger, and I think this person's agenda was to hunt and kill this thing, Bigfoot, to be this, heroic whatever. I mean, that was this whole person's agenda, and I know that there are other groups out there that are like that they want to hunt and kill. I don't get it. I understand why they're doing it, and I know the reasons that they're in it for, all the wrong reasons. But I don't know. It's not in my nature to think that way, so I can't understand it. And I've always tried to, but it eludes me that these people have that mentality out there that hinder what could be really good research or really good community that could possibly bring something forward that could enhance our civilization and humankind itself and the world or universe, if you want to go that far. Why they would want to do that? It irks me. It just bothers me.
Well, it bothers you because you're a good person. I mean, these people, regardless of, it boils down to why they get into whatever they're doing, and a lot of times the reasons are all wrong. They want attention. They want to make a name for themselves. It's fame, and it doesn't matter if it's Bigfoot or it's the paranormal. I mean, you see it every day. You see it in politics. You see it in every aspect of life. And that's just not what we're about. I mean, I was glad that we didn't have this person on because, like you said, that's not what we're about. I mean, we're here just like everybody else. We're looking for answers. We're here to talk and to discuss. We're not here to shove anything down anyone's throats. And these interviews that we do are just as much for us as they are for the listeners because we're continually learning. We've said it before, we're not experts, we're students of life. And whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's ghosts, whether it is the other side, we're constantly learning. And if we can share our lessons, if we can learn along with our listeners, I think that's probably the best part about doing this show.
What are your beliefs on Bigfoot?
I believe that there is such a thing. I believe that Bigfoot does exist. I believe that it is probably safe and happy in its own world, but I also believe that as man takes away the areas. We're losing like our forest areas. We're taking down trees and we're building and we're polluting the earth. As we're changing the earth and as we're losing these areas where, not just Bigfoot, I mean, you can take any animal. If we're constantly changing and destroying the earth, we're losing our animals. We're going to lose such a thing as Bigfoot. We're going to lose our own lives if we don't stop. I truly believe that there is a Bigfoot because there's so many things in this world. There's so many animals that we never knew about. I mean, science is constantly discovering new species of animals. As they clear out in the Amazon, they found different species of animals. But at what cost? we're discovering these creatures, but we're also destroying the land in the meantime. So this holds true for like our country. This holds for other countries in the world. As we destroy the natural habitats, we're going to lose a lot of these animals. And I believe that he's there, and I believe that they probably have their own way of life and their own agenda, and I really, truly would like to see Bigfoot never be discovered, because in my mind, I would feel that then they would be okay. Because, like you said, that the one person with his agenda wanted to catch him, wanted to kill him. What's the sense in that? You're taking something that's unknown, something that's beautiful and mystical, and you want to kill it and you want to put it on display? That makes no sense. I mean, why would you take a panda bear and, they're becoming extinct, and okay, we're going to kill that one panda bear and we're going to put it on in a museum? How about giving the panda bear a chance and letting it thrive in its natural habitat, and then maybe someday we can all be able to see something in their natural way, in their natural life. So personally, yes, I believe there is a Bigfoot.
Well, this is one of the paranormal or cryptozoological, God, I can't even speak tonight. Cryptozoological, if that's a word, I can't talk. It's been a long week for me. This is one of the areas, or one of the beliefs, that I believe without even having any evidence, and that's kind of shocking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do believe there is a Bigfoot, even though I've never seen it. And I've always talked about this before, that I tend to not believe something until I don't believe something 100% until I actually see it for myself. And that was my whole goal in my search and birth of getting into paranormal investigating. But to me, Bigfoot itself, I can believe, because, and this may not make sense because I haven't fully developed this thought yet, or my own theory on it, but what I think is the reason why it's believable to me is because of the evolution of man itself. And I understand the evolution of man and where we came from and where we are now. And I think at some point something had changed where the species known today as the Yeti or the Bigfoot stayed within that class, and we continued to develop on to what we are right now. Because of my belief in evolution and the theory and the science behind that, I believe there could be a Bigfoot. I don't know, it's kind of odd for me to say that even, but it is something that I believe in. I mean, I'll probably develop this theory a little bit more and explain it better, maybe on another show, but honestly, I do believe, and I don't need to see any evidence or hear any stories, and I think that's probably why I'm not heavily involved in researching it. I think that may be the reason why, because I think my mind is telling me, my brain is telling me that I don't need to, that there's no need for it, because with every research that I do, what I try to do is convince myself or try and not convince myself of a certain thing, whatever it is. And so I think my mind is telling me that I don't need to research anymore or look into it anymore, because it's already been made up. The decision has already been made. And I can't fully explain it. I just know that there is a Bigfoot out there. I know that they do exist. I think there are, from what I've gathered through my own formulation of opinions, is that they're a lot smarter than us, I think. Mm-hmm. I think certainly they are more aware of the environment and of the Earth itself, and so therefore they've been able to elude us a lot better, and I think they've been able to hide away a lot better than we think. And they know they know the best way to live on this earth better than we do, to the point where they can be hidden away, that they can be in the dark from us, to the point where their quote unquote species or their kind, their humankind, can exist for such a long time because they've sheltered themselves from the civilization. And so because of that, I think they're much smarter than us, and they've not been deluded into other things and not abused their minds, I think, of things that we've abused our minds of. So therefore, they're a lot more pure. They're a lot more natural.
I don't know if I'm making sense. You can see the smile on my face right now.
I don't know if I'm making sense, but
you're making perfect sense.
I'm just trying to formulate the answer to try and explain how I feel about it. I don't think I need to research it anymore because I know my decision has been made up, and if it's laughable to people, that's fine, because I don't, like Jeff says, I don't really care about what other people say about me or anybody who does reviews on me. It doesn't matter, because I'm the one that lives with my opinion. No one else does, so it doesn't matter. But I think it's fascinating. I think the Bigfoot idea is fascinating, and I think if Bigfoot is ever caught, and I posed this question to Jeff before, that would it change anything in science, or would it change the thoughts of other paranormal phenomenon? And I think it would open up the floodgates on everything else that is out there that is a quote-unquote mystery. I think if Bigfoot is found, that, first of all, the science community would have a field day. I think the theologians would have a field day. I think the world itself would, I think they would be up in arms. Half of them would be. I think there would be a lot of confusion, but I think it would make everybody question a lot. And I think with anything within the paranormal field, I think if anything is ever proven to be fact, I think that is only when the recognition will come to cryptozoology or to ufology or to paranormal itself. I think that's the only time when people will look at these fields in a different light. And I think it may happen with Bigfoot first. I think the Bigfoot area, field, topic, chapter, whatever you want to call it, will be figured out first before anything else. That's my opinion.
You know what? Two things I do want to say. I think my belief in Bigfoot has a lot to do with being Native American. There are so many things in Native American culture that are known and that have been taught. And you just, if you're Native American, there's certain things that you just accept. You take them with the faith because you respect the teachings of your ancestors. You respect the teachings of the ones that have been here before. And that has a lot to do with my belief. I mean, I know the stories of Bigfoot. I know all of these things that have been taught and handed down. And they're not written down. They're oral histories. They're words that were given to you by your ancestors, by your parents, by your grandmothers and grandfathers. And out of respect and out of that knowledge, you know them. Then the other thing that I do want to say is that I honestly think that we need Bigfoot more than Bigfoot needs us.
True. True, and you know, Arla made a point. Well, she made a little statement here. It says we would have to question everything about ourselves, and I think she made another comment. I can't remember, but I think, you know, what's funny though. This just hit me right when you were talking. I think, and sort of what I was just saying before. I think we in this field, we who believe in paranormal, whether it be UFOs and aliens, whether it be Bigfoot, whether it be Mothman, whether it be spirits, whether it be orbs, whatever it may be, whatever we believe in, I think that is why we get into all the other paranormal fields and all the other mysteries out there, because the belief in the one topic that we have has opened up our mind to the idea of the others. And I think that's what's missing for the people who are not in this field, who are the, you know, so-called skeptics out there who don't believe in anything like this, who are, and I hate to say closed-minded, because not a lot of them are closed-minded, they just haven't experienced anything yet. But I think the people who are outside of this field don't get into it or don't believe in anything within the paranormal field is because they haven't believed in one thing yet. I think once you believe in one thing, it opens it up for everything else, where you start to question you yourself, your religion, your existence even, but then you also start to question what else is out there. What other things are questionable that could possibly be true? Because if the one thing that I believe in is true and wasn't formulated to be truth or fact before, or isn't widely accepted or as accepted as fact to the entire world, what else is out there that is questionable or mysterious that other people are questioning or debating or skepticizing about that is not believable, that maybe I can help or try and research and find truth on? And I think that's so great. That's why I feel that this field is so great, because it creates the pathway into the other areas within the topic that can help the whole community. And that's why I hate, and I'll say it, I hate the people that are in this for the wrong reasons, the hoaxers, the deceptors, the people who are in it for the bad reasons, or like Jeff is saying, to sell hot dogs at a stadium. You know, those are the people that I just hate, because it's just another obstacle that we all have to hurdle over. It's another piece of wall that we have to knock down to get forward, and I don't think this field needs any more of that. And that's why I love this field. I'm so passionate about this field. It's sickening to me.
No, it's not. It's wonderful. And like Arla says, you know, we would begin to question ourselves, but that's where everything starts. Before you can start to believe in other things, you have to know who you are. You have to know what you are. You have to know what your belief is. And a lot of times belief comes from experience. You can only formulate what you believe by what you've experienced. And in some cases, like what we're talking about, you know, like I have a belief in Bigfoot, but I've never seen one. I've never been close to one. I don't even know. But yet, because of my experience with my family and my ancestors, and being able to communicate now with and I'll say it, yeah, I do communicate with my mother and my grandmother. Those are my experiences. So who am I to question what my ancestors are giving me, what my guides are giving me? You know, it boils down to it. And you're absolutely right. The people that are in things for the wrong reasons do everybody a disservice. But the person that they're hurting the worst are themselves. And I think, unfortunately, that's a lesson that they have to learn themselves. And I think the world, the universe, has a way of making things right. I think along the lines, these people will learn their lessons. But it's not up to me to teach them. All I can do is still continue to search for the truth and to help others see what that truth is. But these people that are in it for the wrong reasons, I think, you know, what you put out is what you're going to get back. So if you are putting something up as a hoax, if you're trying to deceive people, it's going to come right back to you. No good can come from it. And that's the whole bottom line. We're here to do good. We're here to experience good. And part of believing in Bigfoot, I think, has to come from the good in people.
Karma's a bitch. You know, the only thing that my ancestors ever passed down was the grand old recipe for a pasta sauce. Why didn't I get anything?
You know what? Not everybody can be Native American.
I didn't get any great stories to be passed down. I got some tomato sauce.
Oh.
All right. Do you want to go on to the fan of the week?
Yes, I do. Okay. The Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. Whoa, I said it right. This week is from my state of Illinois. It is Dark Fallen Angel Martinez of Illinois City, Illinois. Dark Fallen likes Rob Zombie. She likes Shakira. She likes Haunted Collector, Dead Files, Ghost Adventures, and of course, she likes Paranormal Review Radio. Thank you so much, Dark Fallen Angel, for being a fan and for supporting us and just being there for us. Thank you and congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Dark Fallen Angel. Your name has come up a lot on our Facebook page for a while now, and we've been meaning to get you to be Fan of the Week, and we finally did. So congratulations. And don't forget, if you want to be a Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week, just like us on Facebook. You don't have to do anything else. Just like us on Facebook. You can chat a little bit on there if you'd like. Paranormal Review Radio.
Okay, well, you know what? Bigfoot has become a beloved part of our American culture. You know, from the casual researcher to the die-hard hunters who track this elusive creature. The search, of course, will continue to go on, and we will have faith that someday the evidence that finally proves to the world that Bigfoot is real will be found. Until then, there is a very special place in our hearts for the enigma we have come to know and love as Bigfoot. We want to thank Jeff Hilling for joining us tonight. It really was a lot of fun to talk to him. So let's talk about faith, believing in a higher power. You know, having a set of beliefs that you live your life by. We've talked about it. We've talked about it a lot tonight. Have you ever thought where the religions of the world came from? Did alien beings visit this planet and cause the birth of religion? Have they continued to do so? You know, all religions seem to have a common thread that God came from the sky and that we will eventually go into the heavens when we die. Also, was the ancient study of the sun and the stars, the birth of religion as our interpretation of the constellations, created a human quality and thus created a belief? Well, we've thought about it, and we're sure that you have too. So next week, we're going to be talking about the birth of religion. Join us, and let's try to grasp where the religions of the world may have started and where they may be going. Okay? So thank you, everybody, for listening. You know, you guys all rock. Thank you, Anthony, for another awesome show. You are so amazing. So until next week, Parapeeps, keep looking for Bigfoot and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio. Paranormal Review Radio.